We have now reached episode 7, the 7th episode of The Acolyte. Dun dun dun. This should be the episode where all of the threads and plot lines and stories all come together and tell us like a cohesive whole, and they reveal all of these great truths. And of course, it sort of does that, but does it in the worst way possible, which is very on par for The Acolyte. Let's talk about it. Thank you very much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on the red subscribe button, notification bell, all that good stuff. Okay, so The Acolyte still sucks. This is really, really frustrating because the storytelling up to this point has been muddy and nebulous and vague, and that's fine if it all comes together to make sense in the end, and this is the episode where it's supposed to do that. It does not. It's just a mess. The acting continues to be pretty bad. Things happen, but tend to happen in like these very vague ways that don't actually close any of the loops. Spoilers for this season of digital television. The fire. There's a fire on Brendock that's shown earlier in the season, which apparently like kills all of the witches of Brendock. Interestingly enough, none of the bodies are burned. They're just all kind of like lying around dead. There's like a pile of witches. So we know, according to that prior episode, that May starts this fire. Now in this episode, she's just an idiot. And the fire is started on accident because she lights a book on fire and then is surprised when the fire doesn't stop. Because she's an idiot, and these characters are all just make no sense. So she starts a fire, it like burns the complex down, and then at some point we finally get our Wookiee lightsaber fight, like a 3-way battle with lightsabers, and it's actually kind of okay. But our Wookiee is possessed by the witches, who, in order to like stop his possession, our delightful Carrie-Anne Moss character, who you could just replace with like any other generic human female, uses the Force to like unpossess him, and in doing so, like just kills all of the witches. Which, like, as I'm saying it, is kind of funny and should not be the intended reaction by the audience. This is not a laughing matter, and yet I like laughed at it because it was so dumb, and I'm like, of course this is how they solve this plot line. Yeah, so she accidentally just kills all of these women who are using their like all their collective power to control this Wookiee Jedi. Torben sucks. He sabotages like everything and is basically like the source of the problem, because he wants to help Sol take the girls from the Coven, which we already knew. But Torben's reason is because he's like extremely homesick. Now, if you think I'm kidding, I'm not. That is the extent of Torben, this character who kills himself early in this season, straight up poisons himself to death over guilt that started because he was like homesick as a kid. It's all dumb. It's all just dumb. It's all dumb. It makes sense when you like put the pieces together, but it's just completely uninteresting, and it doesn't, the big problem is that it doesn't elicit the correct emotions from the viewer, right? When we're supposed to feel like, oh, the Jedi really effed this up, because if you watch these events during the show, that's the conclusion that you would reach. And you you don't reach that conclusion because the way the story plays out is just stupid. So you as a result feel, oh, I watched something stupid, therefore the correct emotions that they're trying to get out of me are not happening. Soul like straight up just stabs to death Main Witch because Main Witch can turn into like black space dust, and she turns into black space dust, and I think this is how it happens. She then like rematerializes basically like into Soul's lightsaber, which is just dumb. Like if you want to have Soul, like if you want to give him some character, then make it like clear that he straight up murders her. That would have been cool and interesting. And can a Jedi redeem himself from that kind of monstrous act? And then his subsequent attempt to cover it up. That's interesting. None of what the Acolyte does here is interesting. Apparently May and Osha are also like one person now. So that's another twist of the Acolyte. They're like one person that's split into two consciousnesses. Which explains kind of why I hate them both. And they're both useless characters because they're the same character. So that's cool too. And I don't know how they're going to wrap this up. This show has been a complete waste of time. And what I think the saddest thing is that I feel like it's a chore. Sitting down to watch a Star Wars thing should be like, oh yeah, riveting, I'm excited, I can't wait. And with this, it's just, oh, let me get through this so I can spend 5, 6, 7 minutes, whatever, recording a video talking about how much it sucks. And I want the show to redeem itself, but it's incapable of doing so. I mean, the best piece of Star Wars content since Return of the Jedi, I've said this multiple times, is Andor, a show that has not a single lightsaber to be found, and yet is incredible because it knows how to tell an effing story. So, Andor does not know how to tell a story. It's disappointing, while equally somehow being like baffling and boring. It doesn't make any sense. So, next week, I'll wrap this garbage up. You're welcome in advance that will be the last video where we have to talk about this nonsense. And let me know what you think in the comments. Am I wrong about the Acolyte? Is it literally the greatest thing ever made? Let me know, and I'll see you next Wednesday to wrap this up at 9 a.m.